I'm hitting go live inside of the channel.
Shut up and start the show.
We were trying to start the show, but everything is like jumping through hoops with us lately, T. How you doing today, my friend?
Good morning, Mr. Patel. How you doing? How's everybody doing in the chat? Thanks
It's
for
good
coming
to see
hang
everyone.
out with us. Yeah.
Great
topic today.
We've been thinking about, we're so happy to have the show back on the air over here on the TubeSpanner channel. Such a great sponsor to have bringing us back on the air and doing the show that we love doing. And Dee and I are always trying to come up with some ideas that make a lot of sense for creators in terms of really answer the kind of questions that they really have, the things that are really stumbling blocks for them, so that we can get everybody out there really starting to grow their channels in a successful way, so that they can start seeing, hitting this kind of goals that they want to hit on their channel, start seeing the kind of successes that they want to hit. So we started with something that we really thought was kind of important today, which was, a lot of creators come to us and go, I just can't seem to get people to watch my videos. I'm not driving the views. My content, I make the videos, I put them up onto YouTube, and then nothing. I get 2 views, or I get 1 view, or I get 6 views, and then nothing happens. So this is where we're going to start today, Dee. Is this a good place to start?
It's a great place to start, because show of hands, let's just kick this off right. If you put in a ton of work into your videos and you don't get the number of views you think you should be getting, type in yes right now. You can just type in hallelujah, whichever one you want to type in, because I think that happens to everybody, creators of all size. Especially, there's a weird thing that happens. It almost seems like the more work I put in, the worse the video actually does.
Oh my God, you are preaching to the choir. Sometimes it feels like I killed it on this one. This one's going to explode, and I drop it, and I'm like, much like the beginning of this live stream, are people seeing this? Is there anything happening here? Right. It does so much less than I wanted it to do. But there is a process by which you actually start to understand how the platform works, the things that you need to do to make sure that the videos that you're dropping start connecting with the types of audience you want to connect with. So hopefully some of that is what we'll cover here today and clear up some of these issues.
Yeah, I mean, some of these things you've probably heard us talk about before. Some of these things you probably haven't heard us talk about before. So we're going to go through these in a linear fashion. Mm-hmm. So if we're getting through one and you're like, well, I do that, sit tight, because maybe you didn't do the next one. And if you did that one, maybe you didn't do the next one. So we've kind of laid this out in an order that makes sense. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one.
Well, yeah, let's do this. I think the most important thing that we should mention is everybody, I think, knows by this point that if you go into your analytics under the audience tab, here, let me see if I can scroll in, that you definitely need to check the box that says, put my videos in front of the most amount of people who will click and watch this video. I did that this morning, Dee. Did you?
Uh-oh.
No, is that not a real thing? Wait, that's not a real thing? What? I thought if you just click, isn't it just push a button and things happen?
You must have a beta feature, and that's why you get all the views.
Listen, the one thing we want to make clear before we jump in is, I think some people feel that way, that there's an easy button. Like I did the thing, and why isn't YouTube just doing its thing? It's a little more complex than that. And the funny thing is YouTube actually is trying to put your video in front of the most amount of people who will actually click and watch this video. But you have to help them. You have to help them along the way. So the things we're going to cover today are things that you can do to actually help that process happen. That makes sense, Dee? I took Dee by surprise. You didn't even see that one coming.
I didn't see that one coming. Let's go. Let's get into it.
Sure.
First one, your topic.
Topic. Oh, that's such a good one. Right there. Topic. Tell me about topic, Dee.
First and foremost, your topic. You have to find a topic that people are going to be interested in. A lot of people are finding these really weird niche topics that just don't have a lot of interest right out of the gate. So you can only get so many views to begin with. So you need to start with a topic that a lot of people are going to be interested in. First and foremost, if you get this wrong, you've painted yourself in the corner, and it's going to be hard to get out of it.
Yeah, and topics are thing, Dee. I see a lot of people do this where they go they make their video about, my summer vacation with my family.
Yes.
That's the topic of your video. You make that video, you go, but it was really fun. We had a lot of fun. And you have to understand that when we talk about topics, what you're going to start with, what you're going to make the video about, has to be important to the viewer. You have to put the viewer's needs first. And if they don't know
put
you,
the needs first. Yes.
if they don't know who you are, it's going to be unlikely that they're going to be immediately interested in watching what you did, when you were at Disneyland or hung out with your family or some vacation you were on. Now, if you're a travel channel, maybe it makes sense to talk about the vacation you went on. But in general, when people start thinking about topics, really start thinking about things that people want to watch who don't know you.
Yeah, and in terms of putting the viewer's need first, just a small shift in the way you're making your topics and how you're writing them can make a huge difference. For example, let's say you have a video that says how I save money. Okay, well, that's interesting. Maybe some people are going to be interested in how you save money, but what if your video instead was titled something like the best way you can save money for retirement, the best way you can save money for XYZ, right? That small little shift, making it about them instead of making it all about you, can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
That's huge. And in all of that, make sure that the topic that you're talking about has a ton of value, right? It's relevant to the people you're trying to talk about. If you're a tech channel and the topic today that you're talking about is, this really new hat that you bought that may not be tech, it's not really relevant to the type of audience you're trying to reach. So topic in general, super important in terms of trying to think about the value you're providing to people and the relevance for the type of people, the target audience you're trying to reach. Starting there is a great place. If you got your topics on point, at least you know your compass is pointing in the right direction, right? You go, okay, run this way. Okay, I'll run this way. That's because if you're running the wrong direction, it's like getting on the highway going the opposite direction. It's disaster waiting to happen. So you always want to make sure that when it comes to, really setting things up to move in the right direction, that you've got your topics aligned. Dee, what would be the next thing someone should think about that might be holding them back from getting views?
Well, I know what the answer is, but I'm curious what people in the chat think the answer is. So if you've got your topic together, right? I've got a great topic. It's value packed. I've made this for a particular viewer. If you've got that together, what would be the next thing that you would focus on? I'm curious to see what you guys would say in the chat. And while you're writing that in right now, I'm going to go ahead and say it because there's going to be a delay in the chat. That's going to be your thumbnail, right? You've got your topic. Now you need to put a thumbnail together that gets people to click. It is not good enough just to simply put up a thumbnail. It's not good enough to simply just rush through a thumbnail. I spend sometimes more time putting my thumbnail together or a series of thumbnails to test than I do making the actual video itself. Because I know that once I have my topic, the next thing is going to come along is that thumbnail, because that's what's going to get their attention. It's going to visually get their attention. If I don't get to click, I don't get to view, and everything ends there. So your thumbnail is going to be the next important thing.
And when you build a thumbnail, one of the things you really want to think about is when we're talking about that topic, that's the thing that your video's about. That's the actual, you go, okay, I'm going to make a video about this, and that doesn't have to be the perfect definition. You're like, if you're, like we were talking about earlier, a tech channel. If you're a tech channel and you go, you know what I really want to make a video about? I really want to make a video about the new iPhone or something. Make sure that your thumbnail represents the value of that video. Sometimes I see people get so wrapped up in trying to do things they think they're supposed to do as opposed to doing things that they actually should be doing.
Yes.
Like I see people, like I put my face in it and I put, I took my entire title and I crammed it up in my thumbnail and it's like all this imagery and words and stuff. And it was supposed to be about the new iPhone, or the iOS 14 or whatever we're at now. And the image that you look at I don't know what that's about. Like just looking at that thumbnail, I don't get it. You have to make sure that the messaging in that thumbnail is really clear so that when you're trying to get people to click so that you can drive those views, keep it simple. Make sure that the thumbnail, looking at the thumbnail in an instant, you go, I know what that's about. I know exactly what that video is about. So that viewer can make a choice whether they want to watch or they don't want to watch.
That's key. And you also need to make sure that you build your thumbnails optimized for mobile devices, right? More and more people are watching content on their mobile devices. That means your thumbnail is really small. Look at it on your phone. Few words as possible, right? You don't want to overstuff your thumbnail. You don't want it to be too wordy. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot with thumbnails. They stuff tons of words into a thumbnail trying to think that I just want to recreate my long tail title and shove all of those words into my thumbnail. It doesn't work that way. Grab a couple of target words, something that's going to trigger your potential viewer. make it bold and really easy to read. Use contrast. If you've got a black background, use a contrasting color. Use white or yellow or orange or something bright. You don't want a black background with dark gray text. You're not going to be able to see it. So use contrast. Use simple, bold, easy to read fonts. And don't pack it full of a ton of words. Just choose a couple of choice words. Keep it simple. Make sure it looks great. And it's really easy to read on a mobile device. I've always had this, and Nick and I have talked about this before. Anytime I've tried to build something online, specifically a thumbnail, I always try to think, okay, not everyone is going to read English as their first language, speak or read English as their first language. So I want to make sure that the words are easy to understand if English isn't your first language. I want to make sure that the words are easy to understand if it's Friday night or Saturday night or Wednesday morning and someone's had too much to drink and they're just cruising YouTube. I want to make sure my words are not too blurry and they're jiggling all over the place. So keep it simple.
Boy,
Wednesday morning, Daniel.
Right. Wow. What are you saying? People won't have too much to drink on a Wednesday morning?
I mean, sometimes we start early. Is what I'm saying.
The other thing to think about is make it compelling. Those thumbnails should be compelling. They should create a sense of I want to click this, right? So there should be elements in there that when people scroll by, just putting an image, just cramming it with text, trying to put your face in there, how does that compel a viewer to want to click that thumbnail? Because that's the first entry point, is you're trying to make sure that the thing you're talking about is a relevant topic, but then you're making sure that the gift wrapping, that thumbnail, that's the thing they're going to see when they're scrolling through YouTube, really screams like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I might be interested in 900 things. I might be interested in music and Harley Davidsons, but I'm also interested in how to grow my YouTube channel. And if I see a thumbnail that screams something that really pops out at me that says, oh, that's something I need to work on, I'm going to go, let me stop here. I really want to, that's something I've been thinking about. It's more important to me in the moment than the guitars and the Harley Davidsons, because you have to remember that your thumbnail might be presented against any other type of content that viewer might be served in that watch session. So it's not always just about competing against other similar types of videos or similar topics. It's about competing against any of the interests that particular viewer might be getting served by YouTube in that given watch session. So make sure that you stand out in a way that yours is simple, easy to understand. So when it's flying by in the scroll, you say, hey, this is what we're doing here today. And people see it and go, oh, I want to watch that. I'm interested in learning more about that. What else do we have, Dee?
Well, I just want to touch on something about faces, because I saw somebody mention faces in the chat. There's tests. People have done studies. They've compiled tons of data where they, over the course of so many hundreds of thousands or however many channels they looked at, some best practices have said faces get more clicks, close-up faces get more clicks, 2 faces get more clicks than 1, 3 get more than 2, so on and so forth. However, that does not mean that it's going to work with your audience. Right? So you're going to have to test all these different styles out to see what works best with your audience. If you're like, hey, I hear that I'm supposed to put my face in the thumbnail, so I put my face in the thumbnails, but it's not working. Try a different picture. Try not putting your face in there. Try flipping your face around and reversing it. Try all sorts of different things, because there's not like a black and white answer to making a thumbnail that gets clicked. It really comes down to just testing a ton of different things to figure out what works with your audience, and your audience will shift over time. So what used to work might not work in the future. So be ready to test a lot of thumbnails.
Absolutely. And that's the first entry point, right? That's the first thing people see in the scroll, is that thumbnail. But right. Dee, what's the next thing that people might see in that scroll?
Your title.
Oh my gosh, the title. The title is so important. Listen, one of the things I want to talk to creators about, and we are here on the TubeSpanner channel, and TubeSpanner, which is coming very quickly up to the official launch, it has some great tools that are going to help you do a lot of the things that you're starting to see on screen right here. Find topics that you can make videos about that are relevant to your audience you're trying to reach. Create great thumbnails. Create fantastic titles. But when it comes to making titles, let me talk to you guys about something that I see a lot, that I'm always working with creators on. I think sometimes people think that if you make a title, that you have to put all these words and put all this stuff in there and stuff all keywords and make it so that the algorithm and the AI will find it and it'll put your video in front of people. Listen, there are real human beings out there that you're trying to reach that want to watch your video. Think about things like how you can keep it simple. What's your video about? If you're making a video about a great chicken piccata recipe, then it should say things like, chicken piccata dinner in under 20 minutes, right? Keep it simple. Keep it easy. Don't feel like you got to go chicken piccata recipes fast, easy. I see people use some of the keyword research tools, and they start stuffing things in there as if because they're just using the tools to go for a high score instead of going, wait, these are real human beings that are going to read this in the scroll, because YouTube is looking at what people are clicking, what they're watching. So step number 1, make sure that your title and your thumbnail work together to represent that relevant topic so that the packaging is simple. So someone sees it and go, all right, yeah, I want to watch that. That looks pretty good. I'd love to learn how to make a fast chicken piccata recipe tonight for my family, right? What else, Dee? What else in there?
Yeah, you want to make sure it goes hand in hand with what you just said. You want to avoid, because when it does drag out and it gets too long, it gets truncated, which means that it gets cut off. So people don't even see all the extra stuff that you're trying to stuff into your title. I don't know if we've got any examples of that or not. I don't think we've prepared anything for that. But if you write too many characters, it's going to get cut off on different devices. Sometimes you can avoid this, but if you can, try to check it on all your devices to make sure that your title, at least to make sense on the smallest device, which would be your mobile device, where it's getting actually cut off and truncated.
Yeah, let me see if, hold on, let me pull something up. I'm skipping around here. If you notice a lot of these videos that are on the homepage of YouTube, see how they're not truncated? See how there's not a ... See how like the high performing videos that are being recommended all fit nice and simple. And this is all oddly recommended stuff based on whatever happens to be getting thrown up here. But there are cases where, see this one here? This one right here. This is about American politics. I apologize for that. Biden speaks on COVID-19 after see, but see that vaccine ... because it's getting truncated. Let me see if I can get that full screen so you can see it. But that's getting truncated, right? That's getting cut off. So someone in the scroll has to read all these words, and then it's getting cut off right here. Like, what is that? Or this one? Give up their what? I don't know what this is. But if you scroll down and you look at what Dee built, look at this. Look at how it's perfectly optimized, even though he could have put more letters in, more characters in for his title. How to build a community on YouTube and grow your channel. And he even capitalized some of the important sections of that title. Build a community, grow your channel. That's Dee leveraging all of the things that can make his title really stand out when people are in the scroll. And even look at his thumbnail. Look at Dee's thumbnail. Build your community, YouTube, pointing up. He really puts all the focus right onto the thing. Build your community, how to build a community on YouTube and grow your channel. So the messaging, the topic, the packaging here make a ton of sense, right? Dee, you did great. I watched that one this morning, by the way. It was a great video. Dee, you did a good job. Very impressed.
Thank you.
That was very cool. But that is
Appreciate
it.
that.
Like thinking about those titles and thinking about using keywords is important. I think if you're going to try to reach people who are interested in how to grow their channel, then it should probably say something about growing your channel. If you're teaching people how to make a chicken, recipe, it should say chicken and the recipe probably in the title. If you're trying to teach people about tech and you're talking about the new iPhone, then it should probably mention the new iPhone in the title. But think about those general rules of practice so that you're making it really simple to say, this is what this video is about. Nice and simple. You like to click? This is what we're doing here today. And people can see it and say, oh, I get what this is. I get. And they make the choice whether to click or not to click based on really simple information. They don't have to chase and stop and think, because people in the scroll are not going to try to read all the stuff in your thumbnail and then scroll down and look at the title and figure it out. It's like going through Netflix, scroll, looking for something that jumps out of them and says, this is the kind of stuff you like, you should watch this. And that's what people usually stop at. Oh, that piques my interest. I relate to that. Those are the kind of things I like. I'll stop and check out what that one's about.
I think a great exercise for everyone to do is just be mindful how you use YouTube or whatever platform you're on, right? Whatever. If you're on TikTok, be mindful how you engage over TikTok. If you're on YouTube, be mindful of how you do things. Be mindful of the type of titles and thumbnails that get your attention, and try to figure out, why did this thumbnail get my attention? Why do I want to click on this thumbnail? What is it about this title that got my attention? And study the videos that are successful. When you come across a video with a ton of views on it, study it. Study the thumbnail, study the title. What is it about this title? What is it about this thumbnail? Right? Study these things, because those things work for a reason.
Huge.
figure it
And
out.
all that stuff works together. Again, what we're talking about here is how do you get people to view? Start with getting them to click. Number one step, win the click. Then you can start moving in the direction you want to move in. Get the topic right. Get the thumbnail right. Get the title right. Get them to click. Now you've got them at least in the front door. Right. And now we can talk about some of the other things you might want to think about.
And
what else
then
we got?
and then they walk in the front door, and this is where a lot of people blow it.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
they open the front door, and then they're like, they peek their head in the house, and they say, "Nope, not interested. I don't. This house kind of freaks me out. I'm leaving."
So, what are the things that once they got their face inside, they peek their head in? What's some of the things that are really important right off the bat, Dee, that people need to think about when it comes to making sure that people will watch their video and they'll get that view?
Well, the most important thing is not to have an intro that scares them away, that makes them click off. And I can't.
Hold on, is it on the board?
Drum roll, please.
Well,
Get the intro on there.
Hold on.
Intro, please. We need it.
There it is. All right, we found it.
There it is.
Perfect.
There we go. Here's what you need to do. A lot of, we've become conditioned to believe that we have to make content in a certain way. I got to have this, I got to have that, I got to have my intro, I got to have this thing come in. And you might be able to get away with having an intro. You're going to have to test this with your audience to see what works or not. But a lot of intros are killing your video. They're killing your video because people aren't clicking on the thumbnail to see an intro. So if you are going to have an intro, keep it short and sweet, just a couple of seconds. Make sure your music isn't obnoxious. Make sure it's not too annoying. And the way you can test this to see if people are interested or if they're leaving when your intro plays is go into YouTube Studio, click into the video, and you can look at your audience retention graph. And if you click on it, is it advanced or show more? It's one of the tabs. It's going to
both will get you there. So either up in the upper right hand corner, advanced mode, or under the big graph right at the top, you click show more under that big graph, and both will get you to the same place.
Right. And then what's going to happen is you're going to see your video and you're going to see your audience retention graph. You can hit play on the video and you can watch the little needle go across your audience retention. And if when your intro plays, you notice that there's a drop in the graph, then people are leaving because they don't like your intro or they're skipping over it, one or the other. But a lot of people leave. So you want to make sure if you do have an intro, number one, to test it to see if it's working. Number two, keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing people never ask themselves is, do you even need an intro? I see a lot of people like, I got to make my intro because I think we all grew up on television and movies and all of those things that had like, pick your thing, like Star Wars was like, ta-da, and it has like the big, the scrolling text stuff. People think they need this huge intro because we grew up on these different mediums that we're used to having. Television shows and everything else has a big opening credits thing and a branding play, but YouTube is a different beast. People if they don't know you, why are you making an intro? Like, don't just make an intro to say, because I need an intro. If I say to you, well, why? Because I need an intro. I need to know people need to know who I am. Well, didn't it say it right underneath the video they're watching before they even clicked when it was listed in recommended or suggested or in search? Didn't it say the name of your channel right there? So don't they know? Are they there to find out who you are, or are they there to find out the promise of the topic, the thumbnail, the title? You said you were going to give me this. What is it? Is it there? Do I need an intro?
Yeah, I don't use an intro. I've never used an intro. It just doesn't make sense. You have to think of the viewer experience first. The viewer always comes first. And there's so many things that you see online with so many people saying like, well, you got to get the perfect YouTube formula. Here's the perfect YouTube formula. You got to have a strong hook, which is true. You do need some sort of a strong hook. But it's like you drop your hook and then you have your intro. And then after the intro plays, then you got to come back and introduce yourself. And then you got to ask them to subscribe. And then they break down this formula. It's like, no, that might have worked before, but that's not where we're at now. You need to look at your data. You need to think of the viewer first. You need to think about why people are on YouTube in the first place, why they are clicking in the first place. They don't want any of that. Do you want any? I don't care. I don't want any of that stuff.
No.
Now, if it's well done, there are some channels out there who are doing, but they've mastered the art of getting people to watch their content. They know how to edit. They understand what their audience wants. They've tested this stuff and they can get away with it because they know it works. But for the average person, for us mere mortals who are in the trenches trying to build views, do you really need an intro? That's not what they're there for. Nobody clicked for your intro.
Yeah, right. Like I don't walk into a party of a bunch of people that I don't know and hire a guy to come in first and go, ladies and gentlemen, Coming in the front door right now is Mr. Daniel Patel. Give him a like and a subscribe and share the fact that he's walking in the room, would you? That kind of stuff is like, no.
I don't know. That would be pretty cool.
I gotta hire a person like that. D, what are you doing this weekend?
Everybody needs a hype man coming through the door. That's all I'm saying.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I will say.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but do we need it? No, we don't. No. We don't need that. We don't need it. So think about it. Make sure that the thing that you're putting in, be intentional in terms of all the things we're talking about here. I think that's what Dee and I are really saying is every one of these things that might be holding you back from getting views, be intentional. Is your topic great? Are you right on point? Is your thumbnail great? Is your title great? When it comes to an intro, do you need the intro? Do you need a thumbnail? You definitely need a thumbnail. Make sure it's a good thumbnail. You need a good topic. You need a good title, but you may not need the intro. So rethink. Always question yourself. Question yourself. Don't do things because you think that's how they should be done. I say that a lot. Sometimes people do things and they think the reason that they do things is because that's how they've always done it, not because that's how it should be done. So always think about, I've always done this, but should I be doing it? Maybe
everybody else does it. Everybody else does it.
I saw all these big YouTubers do it. That means I should do it. Well, guess what? You know, are you watching those big YouTubers so you can see their intro? Or are you watching it because you want to see the stuff they're talking about? Think about that. Think about that.
Right. Think about that. Let that simmer.
Because the thing that when we get into this area, D, we're talking about, the things that, this is a really important section. I think that head of the video, we got to stay here for a second because there's different pieces of this. It's talking about the very beginning of the video. We talked about the intro, right? There's that very beginning part. You may even mentioned a couple other pieces. So we're in that. Sometimes people, even if you don't use an intro, what are the other things? What's another thing we need to think about in terms of what might be holding people back for getting the views that they want to get?
Well, let's think of it as people walking into your house, right? You open the door, boom, you're hit with an intro. That may or may not, stop them from coming into your house. But let's say they continue to walk into your house. The next thing that's going to happen is going to be what you start to say immediately. That could be your ask. That could be what you're asking them to do. And I there it is.
There it is. It's on the board.
On your board. I think a lot of channels are going wrong, and I actually dropped this from my channel, and it helped my audience retention quite a bit. I was asking people to do too many things too early. I would always start with a hook. I would bring them in with the hook. I'd let them know that they clicked on the right video, let them know what they were going to get. But then I started asking too much stuff. I started wasting time.
Well, give me an example. What were the kind of things that you were asking, Dee, that you think were detrimental to keeping people watching your video?
Well, okay, first of all, I want to talk about a strategy that I used to drive more comments, but while I was driving more comments, it actually was hurting my audience retention. So I was getting more engagement, but it was hurting my retention. And that's what I was asking people to leave a comment. I would say things, first of all, I'd drop my hook, and then I would say something like, hey, if you're new here, welcome, my name is Dee. I have my channel is XYZ. If you're new to the channel, go down into the comments, drop a hashtag new. I like to reply to everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm just going through this huge thing, and you could see my audience retention graph is just, it was like a cliff. People were just leaving. They were leaving comments, but those comments weren't helping the channel, right? Took me a long time to make that connection. It's like, you know what? Like that's not what they're there for.
So you used to have, did you originally have like an intro that you used that you dropped? Is that what you were saying?
No, I never had an actual intro, but I would do the hook, Today I'm going to give you 5 things that you can do with your iPhone to make you a better content creator. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Dee. I make content that's going to help mobile content creators. And if you're new to the channel, drop a hashtag new down in the comments. I love to welcome new people to the channel. And then I would go on and I would try to drop some humor in there. And I would just drag it out for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute before I would get into the meat of the actual video for the thing that they clicked for. And that just murdered my audience retention. It just murdered it. People were just like, nope. And people were leaving because that's
so important. I think
that's not what they clicked for.
People forget that, listen, the stuff that happens, people think that views, this is something I think sometimes people get confused. People think I want more views and they think, oh, the view is the thing. I just want to get that number. I just need to get a lot of views. But if those people start watching and immediately click away, YouTube starts getting the signal, the traffic signals from those viewers that people don't like this video. And because they didn't stay and watch after the click, so it might register as a view, but it didn't register as watch time, YouTube starts going, I I guess people didn't really like this, so we shouldn't recommend it as much. And that's a huge part of the problem, because YouTube starts using that data to decide who else to show this video to, who else to put it in front of, who else to recommend it to, where it should stay in search. If you had a video that shows up in search, should it stay at the number 2 or 3 spot? If people are clicking away quickly, they'll go, just, it's got the relevance, but it doesn't have the performance. So they'll start dropping that in search rankings. And you go, well, what do I need to change to make it get back up in search? You need to keep people watching, because it's not just relevance, it's performance. You got to make sure that the people click and watch. And when you lose them right off the bat, they're not there to listen to you tell them, please subscribe, please share, please comment, please go to my website. Oh, I've got the sponsor. You should check out their stuff. Get to the thing. All of those things can happen in a video, but the single most important thing you should be doing in any given video is to get that viewer watching and keep that viewer watching, because that's what YouTube's paying attention to. And that's what they're using as a guide to decide what other viewers who might have similar watch habits or interest to serve this video to, because they're paying attention to the viewer. They're trying to figure out, hey, people like these types of viewers like these types of videos. What do we got? What do we got that's good? What's in the bins? And if you're one of those videos that's really relevant and has been performing well, then YouTube will grab that out of the bin and say, all right, let's put that as a candidate. Let's throw it up there. Let's see if that one flies, if they start clicking this and they start watching this. So that whole topic, thumbnail, title, your intro, that's so important. You can't just get the view number. You need to start getting them watching after the click. Super important.
100%. And I want to tell you what I did, how I changed that, right? How I started off, I front loaded all that stuff, and it was just murdering, right? It was just murdering my video. So what I did is I started bringing some of that stuff in later, and I would pepper it in through the video. So instead of leading with that, because that's what nobody clicked for, what I've started doing is, I drop the hook and then I just get right into the thing. And the faster I get into the thing, the better my audience retention is. And then instead of just front loading all the like and subscribe and all that stuff, I'll do things later on, and I'll lead with value if I'm going to ask them to subscribe. So for example, if somebody clicked on a video where I'm teaching you, say the title is how to live stream with your iPhone, I know they're there for live streaming. I know they're there with an iPhone. So later on in the video, I might say, if you want to learn about, or I might say something like, if you want to learn more about live streaming with your iPhone so you can become a professional live streamer or whatever, go ahead and click the subscribe button, followed by the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos that can make you a better live streamer, right? I lead with value, let them know what they're going to get, but I would put that later in the video, or I would say, that I have another video coming about live streaming accessories for your mobile phone, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that, right? So I started putting them in that way instead of front loading everything, and it worked just as well.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
That's so smart, because, it's funny, all of that stuff we're talking about right off the bat, our pal Brian G. Johnson was the guy who, I heard him say that he called YouTube ADHD TV, because people literally click, and the minute they click within that first, 8, 5, 6 seconds, right at the beginning, before you've even gotten a handful of words out of your mouth, they've made snap decisions whether or not they're gonna hang out. Now, if they know you, if they are part of your community, they'll give you more leeway, they'll hang longer. So you have, but if they don't know you, and that really is how we grow channels, is by reaching people who have no idea who we are. We need to leverage, once we get them to click, what are we doing at the very beginning to make sure that they got their finger on the mouse and they're like, I'm about to click away, or they're on their mobile device going, what? You need to go, hey, listen, let me give you the thing. Let me not use an intro to scare you away. Let me not start asking you to do 900 things, share, like, hit the, because you
before you even know me. Before you even know me.
Right.
You don't know buy me a drink or something. Like, you don't even know me like that. Right.
Let's talk about our favorite long walks on a long beach. What is it? Long walks on a hot beach
on a
or something
beach?
like that?
Yeah.
Right.
Whoa.
Have a discussion. You're trying to get me to, you're engaging. You're trying to get me to say yes to a marriage proposal.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are.
I don't know you like that.
I just got here. I just found you on Match.com. You got to slow your roll. Well, there's another piece of that, Dee. There's another huge piece of that
hook.
That hook, right? That hook is right there. boom. That hook is so important to what you're going to present, right? So if you're not going to put a long intro in, and you're not going to ask people to subscribe and leave a comment and like and share, the thing that you can do is think about a hook. So just like Dee was saying, if you're going to make a video that shows people a specific thing, if you made a promise in the topic, title, thumbnail, all of that packaging said, hey, listen, this video is about the best new apps for the new iPhone, 5 best apps for the new iPhone, right? Then the minute that video starts, you want to go, I just picked up the new iPhone and there's so many different apps you can get, but today I want to show you 5 fantastic apps that you definitely need to make sure you have on the new iPhone. Let's go. That's a hook. It reminds people the minute they click, you're in the right place. It feeds metadata via your closed captions to YouTube, so they hear, because YouTube does listen to what we say in our videos. Anyone who's ever been demonetized or had something triggered and gotten a copyright claim knows that YouTube is listening. So you want to make sure that you make it clear what the video is about, not only for YouTube for SEO purposes, but mostly for the viewer. Make it clear. This is what we're doing today. And then get that hook. That hook should just quickly set up what they're about to see, not waste their time. This is what you clicked. You've come to the right place. Reaffirm the promise of the title and the thumbnail. And that's what a hook is. That's what an effective hook should do. Really show them, is this what I want to watch? You've got that opening hook? Oh, yeah, this is totally what I want. This is it. This is what I want to see. We even see this in things like Marvel movies now, right? When they start making, like they made the last... this the Infinity War series, right? That was so good. I mean, they don't even go to the credits anymore. They don't have the opening. They go right into the action. It's like, oh my God, we're picking up right where we left off, right into the action, because they're trying to sell people on, oh, this is no joke. We're getting right into the value. We're showing people exactly what this thing is, and we're going to lead them down the rest of that story arc or the value of the thing that's going to happen over the next hour and a half or 2 hours in a Marvel movie. But in your video, they may be a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 12 minutes, half hour, an hour long. Make sure that you're setting that up with a hook. Make sense?
And a hook can be a verbal hook. It can be a visual hook. If you've got something really exciting that happened in your video, put a few seconds of that right at the very beginning. So they click, this really exciting thing happens, but it doesn't conclude. You don't show them the conclusion of that exciting thing. You just show them a few seconds of it, and then you come back in and start your video. Right? It could be a verbal hook or a visual hook. And I'm glad you mentioned movies, because all of the movies now, they've all moved those opening credits. Now they're in the credits, right? Remember we used to sit through all this stuff at the beginning of a movie years ago? They're all at the end now. Like you said, as soon as you come into the movie, they, production companies, whatever, and then boom, they come right into the action. They get you, they come right into it. And
companies like Marvel are always thinking about how to get your average view duration up. They'll put credits and then go, we're going to stick a secret scene that you do not want to miss. Everyone used to walk out of the theaters. Credits roll, everything. Lights come up, everybody starts walking out. I don't know who the second dolly grip gaffer was on, whatever movie I was watching, because I don't read that,
John Waters. It was John Waters.
John's good.
Yeah.
He's underrated as a.
He is.
Is that his thing?
As a grip, he is. John is underrated as a second grip.
He's my favorite grip. But they do that. You've seen these movies where they go, hey, don't walk out during the credits. Stay to the end, because there may be a quick scene that sets up something else that you don't want to miss. Never in my life did that happen as a kid, but now we watch movies and it's like, they don't even put the lights up anymore. The credits are rolling. You're like, just sit there. Don't go. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen next. Stay to the last minute of it, because there could be something that you would miss. Even on TV, on the Mandalorian series, they started to, did they do it? I know they did it in the WandaVision one. The first 3 or 4 episodes, they did not put anything after the credits. And then they dropped it like third episode. I'm like, you sons of something.
Sons of Disney. Yeah, well, that's what they're doing. They did that for Star Wars. They're doing that for Disney. So some of them, they don't do it. Some of them, they do. So now you're like trying to fast forward through the end of it. And you're like, well, do they have an end credit or do they not have an end credit? But they're keeping your attention that way. They're masters at this. And I'm glad you said that, because somebody left a comment yesterday on my channel. They watched one of my videos about YouTube Shorts. And the comment was something along the lines of, is our attention span really that bad that we have to watch 60 seconds? And I was like, actually, no, we just suck as creators at holding their attention. Like Steven Spielberg or Disney can hold our attention for, an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours. As YouTubers, we're not skilled. We don't know how to hold attention. That's something we have to learn. So I don't think attention spans are necessarily getting worse. It's just that we don't know. We're not filmmakers, right? Filmmakers
You know what
how
I
to
would
hold
add?
attention.
You know what I would add to that, D? I would say you're absolutely right. It's not that there's some really skilled YouTubers out there. The difference is we tend to serve audiences who don't know who we are. When someone comes in to watch a Steven Spielberg movie, they know Spielberg. When someone goes to watch a Star Wars movie, they're in the community. They're fans. They've already built that community up. When you're a brand new entity or property, or you're a smaller channel, you're trying to reach people that don't know you yet. You don't have that proven authority. When we talk about authority when it comes to YouTube, authority isn't look how big my channel is. I get preferential treatment. Authority is you've done it enough, you've built enough trust with your community and your target audience that they will come back and they will sit longer and they will wait and watch through more of it because they've become used to. I don't want to say don't be. Matt Gielen says this perfectly. Don't be predictable. Don't just be be so predictable, but be dependable. Right? Make content that people go, oh, Dee's got a new video up. I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about today, but I know that I've really found a lot of value in a lot of the stuff he's put up. So if he puts a new one up, even if the topic is something I don't know if, I didn't even know what this is. I didn't even know if I need to know this. I'll watch Dee's video because it's like, oh, well, there it is, because I can depend on Dee to give me really valuable content that stays true to his value proposition. And I know that he's proven so many times before that I learn so much when I watch his content that when he puts something new up that I think I don't need to know, I'll still watch it to go, what is he talking about? Am I missing something here? Is this something I need to pay attention to? That's so important, being dependable.
Yep. Moving on to the next one. Get your bell ready.
We got bells? Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. You tell me when.
Pacing.
Let's
see it. Let's see the scoreboard.
Damn it! Hold on. I blew it.
Pacing. Yeah, there you go. Pacing.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Let me take two. You ready? What was that, D?
Pacing.
I can't do it. I'm just,
That's all right.
This is why I'm not, this is why that,
Somebody
this is
take
why,
the bell
this is why
away
I'm not
from
paid
Dave.
the big bucks. I'm not allowed to play with the bells. I'm not allowed to play with I get a fail. Pacing. D, talk to me.
Pacing is it's the structure of your video. So we talked about the hook. We talked about, do you need an intro or not? How fast do you get into it? How do you edit the video? What is your pacing? Do you speak too slow? Have you removed your awkward ums and ahs? Do you have awkward pauses? Do you edit in the wrong place? Right? The pacing, the structure of your video. This can kill your video. So you've got them through the front door. You do or do not have an intro that works. You've got a solid hook, but now it comes to the rest of your video. Right? What I do, and I've always made my videos tight and I've made them pretty fast paced, but I've noticed that my audience responds better the faster it gets. The more I trim the fat, the better off my video is for audience retention. And what I'll do is, even the video that I just published, if it's a 8-minute video, I put the 8 minutes together and I say, okay, is there any part of this 8 minutes that I can get rid of and the video still makes sense? And if the answer is yes, I edit that part out. Then I look at it again. Okay, well, now it's 7 minutes. Is there any part of this video that I can pull out and it still makes sense? And if the answer is yes, I keep shortening that video until I completely trim the fat. And that has done wonders for my audience retention.
Yeah, and pacing can change based upon the type of content you're making. Like someone can say, hey, listen, Joe Rogan makes these incredibly long, and seemingly endless live streams, but he plans that out so far in advance and gets all the right guests and really thinks about what he's going to talk about in each segment. And he's built that authority because that's what people come to expect from him. So when when you're in a position where you're trying to build something out, think about your pacing in terms of not people who already know you or what you think they will like, but based upon what you think that you can provide value in. Think about, if I was on the outside watching, would I sit through this part? Would I want to watch this? If I made a promise, does this section need to be in here? Did I repeat myself? Did I take too long to get to the next thing? Do I need all of this stuff that's going on? And that includes all of the stuff we talked about in the beginning when we were talking about the intro, your ask, the hook, that's all part of that pacing that sets it up. That gets them in the door. But afterwards, your pacing and your structure of what happens next needs to be super important. I come from the music industry, and I always share this one where, we had a producer who used to say to us when we were making new songs, like, don't bore us, get to the chorus, right? Like, just get to the thing. Give the people what they want instead of, waffling around and say, oh, well, today this is kind of things you need to think about. And then once you're in, you're like, oh, and, you should just be specific. Say, this is what we're going to talk about today. Get to it, give them the value, and stay paced in a way that people go, yep, I'm in. If you're showing, like I always go back to the chicken recipes, if you're showing them how to make a chicken piccata, step one, what you want to do is you want to get about a pound of fresh chicken and you want to throw it onto a cutting board and slice it like this. Show them the slice. Next, go keep the pacing. Don't waste time talking about, a funny thing happened while I was in the supermarket today. I tried to find a parking space to buy this, and you start falling off into something that they're not there for, you're going to lose them in the pacing. Keep it brisk and keep it moving.
I will add two things to that. If you are a great storyteller and you're good at holding their attention, you might be able to weave some of that stuff in. But if you're not a great storyteller, it's probably not going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. Also, I give you an example of what works on my channel. That fast-paced editing might not work with your audience. If you're doing something that's highly technical or something where people really need to pay attention or you've got a lot of details, the fast-paced editing might not work for your particular audience. So it's going to have to be something you're going to test. If you're like, hey, people are just leaving, it could be that you're taking too long, you're speaking too slowly, so on and so forth. So you're going to have to try different pacing styles to find the right pacing. I had to go through it. It took me a lot of videos to figure out I already started off fast, but I had to go even faster for the audience that I had, which is crazy because you would think that people, okay, I'm making tutorials. You would think that you'd want to slow that down. Didn't work that way. The slower I went, the worse the videos did, the worse they performed. People weren't.
Yeah, the thing I find,
were not interested in that.
I do a similar thing because I do a lot of tutorials, and the only people who complain about my pacing are people who may be speaking English as a second language,
right, exactly,
which are not my target audience. As much as they might love watching my content, I am not making tutorials for people who don't speak English as a main language. I do try to build them in a way that it does reach a global audience. But if people say to me, you talk too fast, go slower, it's hard for me to follow, I have to make sure that the other 90% who go, I love it. You get right to the point. You don't waste our time. You give me what I need, and then you get out. You don't fill it with a bunch of fluff. That's what I love about your channel. So make sure that you're always serving the needs of the greater target audience, not some community member who says, well, you know what you ought to do? I think you should stop here, slow it all down, and repeat everything you just said as a review. Like, no, give them the thing that they're looking for. Keep the pacing moving, keeping the structure moving, get through the end, and then move them on to trying to maybe potentially watch even another video, another piece of your content.
Get to the value as quickly as possible. If you've done all these other things that we've talked about today and you're still struggling and people are still leaving your video, then you're not getting to the value fast enough. So get to the value faster. And that leads us to the next thing. Get your finger on the bell, Daniel.
Going.
Alignment.
Daniel, that was pretty good that time.
You did. Tell them what alignment is. Walk us down there. Walk us down the alignment road.
We're down the alignment aisle, right? So we've done this. Yeah. You might say I found the perfect topics. I've done good thumbnails. I think my titles are pretty good. I've done all the things. The intro's not there. I've made sure I'm not asking them to do a bunch of stuff. My hook's good. I think my pacing is strong. But alignment is when you build a channel. This is a bigger thing. You might have done all this stuff. You made a really great channel that's doing all these things. But then this week you put out a video about making that chicken recipe we talked about. And then the next video, you decided, that went really well. I'm going to do a similar thing, make sure I nail the top. I'm going to get like the thumbnail, the title, the intro. I'm not going to do the ask. I'm going to get a great hook. And this time I'm going to make it about, the new Apple mini iMac, right? I'm going to talk about that. And what happens is you're trying to make content that isn't in alignment with the value proposition of your channel, right? You might be making a great video, but if you started setting up the idea that your channel was a channel that was going to teach people how to make, how to make like fast and easy dinners for your family, and you throw a tech, video in there, unless that tech is like some piece of, like an air fryer that can help you cook quicker. If it's something that's completely out of alignment, it can be a great video, but people will go, that's not really what I was here to learn about. I was here to learn about the cooking recipes. This might be great, but I'm going to choose not to click. And the fact that that's out of alignment will lose you that view from the viewers that YouTube is trying to serve your content to based on the performance of previous content on your channel, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Like I have 150 videos on my channel targeting mobile content creators and mobile live streamers and YouTubers. If I started making videos as much as I would love to make this video on how to make a pizza, people would go, wait, what? Right? What's this pizza video doing on your channel? I didn't subscribe for this. Now, the hardcore members, the people who are on board in the community, they would watch it and they would probably enjoy it. But the average person who doesn't know you, they're not going to be interested in that. So there's a disconnect there, and you want to avoid that at all costs. You want to make sure everything is in alignment with your value proposition. And if you don't have a value proposition yet, I highly consider you come up with one. Daniel, what is your value proposition?
Mine's really simple. I help content creators make better content in order to grow their YouTube channels. So if anything I make does not do that, I look at my videos. I'm like, does this video help people make better content in order to grow their YouTube channels? If it doesn't, I do not make that video.
Yeah, perfect.
Simple.
Yeah, and you know, we have here, like even if you make a great video and that video gets served to the wrong audience. And this is where you can confuse YouTube, right? You got a fantastic video, but YouTube serves that video to the wrong audience because you have all this other content about this particular subject. Then you release this video and it goes to the wrong audience. That great video can die, right? Like you guys might not be growing simply because your videos are currently going in front of the wrong audience. You might be doing all of the things correctly. Great videos, fantastic videos. It's just that the wrong people are seeing them, so they're not clicking. Or if they are clicking, like, what is this? Like, this really isn't for me. So getting your video in front of the right audience is key as well.
I've made this comparison a million times about the supermarket. If your channel was a product, right? What do you make? I make, make sure that if you make canned vegetables, then when you send that product out to the supermarket, they grab it, they know exactly what aisle it goes into and they know where to put it. If you make canned vegetables and you send comic books, yarn, and stuffed animals, the supermarket goes, I don't know what we'll put it in the soup aisle and see what happens. And people walking down the soup aisles, I'm just here for the soup. I wasn't here for the other yarn and the stuffed animals. So you need to help YouTube do the very thing we talked about. Help them understand what your content's about. So when they're learning those viewing behaviors of the audience you're trying to reach, they can go, well, they watched the last video. Let's try this next video. Let's send that out to the same type of viewer, see what they think. And if that is in alignment, there's a better chance of those people clicking, watching, and you get the view and you get the watch time.
I love to use Dr. Sten Ekberg as an example of videos going to the wrong audience. When I started my YouTube channel, his channel was really small. I think he had maybe 10,000 or 20,000 subscribers. He does health and wellness. He teaches you how to live a healthier lifestyle. But he made some videos that I think he talked something about hip hop or something.
They thought he was a rapper. They thought he was a rap channel.
They thought Dr. Stan, which is weird because he had just endless videos that were talking about health and wellness. But for some reason, YouTube was confused and they kept putting his videos in front of a hip hop crowd. And they weren't interested. And then what happened, one of those days, YouTube goes, oh, health and wellness. And they put his videos in front of the right audience. And in the course of 2 years, he's almost packed on 1 million subscribers.
Huge. And that's the kind of guy that learns like, wow, unlist those videos that are hurting your channel. Because as long as those videos are performing well, they think Dr. Sten is Dr. Dre, and they're pushing this stuff to the wrong people, the wrong target audience. And it might be great content. It's just being sent to the wrong people because, once again, it's out of alignment with your channel's value proposition. And YouTube is having a hard time understanding who to serve that content to.
Yeah,
right?
And I think that happens to a lot of channels.
Absolutely.
Right? You're doing all the stuff. You're doing all of the things, but for maybe you did something early on, or YouTube is just making a mistake and they're simply putting your content in front of the wrong audience. That happens. Just keep going, stay focused, and eventually YouTube will figure it out.
All right, so we got all of our thumbnails, titles, intros. We're not asking for too much. The hook looks good, the pacing's great, and I'm staying in alignment, and my videos still aren't driving the views I want them to drive. Dee, what's the next thing that a creator might want to think about? Reasons their videos aren't driving the kind of views when they publish them that they think they should be.
I almost feel guilty talking about this one.
This might be close to home.
This is one of those things where I should take my own advice, but that you get your finger on the bell?
I do.
Consistency.
There it is. That's a big one. That's a big one. Dee, talk to me about consistency.
I shouldn't be allowed to talk about consistency, but I will. Right? So consistency is making sure that you're uploading on a regular schedule, and you want to avoid long periods between your uploads, right? How much you upload is just as important as the distance between your uploads. So you want to make sure that you do that on a consistent level. And yeah, this past year has been a real difficult year for me in terms of consistency, but I'll get back on the horse.
I hear, it's been tough for everybody.
It's been a tricky year. It's been a tough year, yeah.
And, consistency, I think, people have to understand it's not about how many videos you put up there. It's the pattern in which you drop videos. If you're going to go out there and try to drop 50 videos on your channel all in one day and go, there we go, there's enough content for the next 6 months.
Why am I not growing?
That doesn't really work unless you consistently drop a ton of content and you teach YouTube that you're going to be putting volumes of content down. You need to establish a pattern by which viewers can expect to see new content from your channel. Because if you take long breaks, and it's not, to every rule there's an exception. Someone will go, well, I know this one channel that doesn't upload that consistently. What we're talking about here is if you're having trouble if you were driving all kinds of views, you don't need to be here today, right? If your channel is growing gangbusters and you've got, 20,000 new subscribers every week and you're driving, 1 million views every 2 weeks, then you've got it figured out. You don't need to sit here and rethink too much what you're doing. But if you're someone who's really struggling to get to monetization, if you're struggling to get past 1,000 views in the first 48 hours of your video's launch, think about what you're dropping, what the thing looks like, how it's packaged. If you've got the flow and the pacing and the ask all right, you're getting right through the hook, right into the meat of the content, and then make sure that you're publishing regularly. I think personally, if you're going to be on the platform and you're really trying to grow, you really don't want to let more than like 7 or 8 days go by without dropping another piece of content. Now, that's not true for everybody. There are some holdouts. We've talked about this before. Right. Mark Robert. We've talked about, Lucas Espida, people who it takes a month to make these high-end pieces of content. But if you're someone who's just out there making content that if you're doing cooking recipes, if you're doing, a health and fitness channel, if you're doing, you name it. If it's something that you go, yeah, I usually spend like whatever, a day making a video and editing it, then think about make sure that you can fit it into a schedule where, once every 7 or 8 days, you drop a piece of content so that YouTube starts understanding the regularity of your channel and viewers start coming to expect what they should see from your channel, how often you're going to drop, how often you're going to upload. And the viewer will be like, oh, yeah, it should be, it's the weekend. I think Dee should have a video out. Why don't I sneak over there and see if Dee has something if they missed an announcement? So that consistency is really important across the boards.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can work against you as well if you're uploading too much content. Depending on the type of content you make and the niche that you're in, there is such a thing as viewer fatigue, where you're uploading too much content, too many videos, and your viewers have to choose between your videos or they just get tired of seeing you. So figuring out your consistency it's very important. You got to figure out that right spot. I think what Daniel said is great. Try to upload something, test it. Every 7 or 8 days. That may or may not work for you. If you find that, okay, that's not enough, drop another one in there. Maybe that's too much for your community, depending on the type of videos that you make. Maybe it's not enough. All of the things that we're talking about, you're going to have to test this against your own audience to see how they respond to these things.
Right. You made a great point in there, talking about dropping a lot of content at once. Sometimes people go, oh, I'll just put up 3 or 4 videos right now, and then YouTube's going to send them all out to people and they'll watch it. You can make the mistake of actually competing against yourself for the click, right? If you drop 3 videos and YouTube chooses to put all 3 of them in front of one viewer, the viewer can't click all 3 at once. They have to make a choice. So you're now competing against yourself for that click on that impression. So YouTube, so you win on one, but you lose on the other two. So really thinking about your strategy and going, let me put one out there. So when I want to make it really strong. So when it drops, I'm giving the viewer one option to watch this new video today, not 4 new videos. And they go, oh, I'll watch this one, and 75%, 3 of the other videos you dropped that day, maybe they'll get back around to. That's asking a lot. Maybe they won't. More than likely, they'll just choose one. And you've actually had your own videos competing against themselves to win the click and get that view.
Yeah, that's key. And that's something that's like the exact opposite of platforms like TikTok. People go on TikTok and they go to other short form platforms and they're just like powering through content. And that works over there, the way the algorithms work, the way they serve the content to people. But that doesn't always work over on YouTube, and that's something to be mindful of.
Absolutely.
That brings us to the next thing.
All right, I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Time. All right, so the first thing about time is you simply have not been on YouTube enough. If you've done all of the other things that we've talked about today and things are still not working for you, it could be that you haven't been on that platform long enough. You just haven't given it enough time yet. YouTube doesn't know who your audience is yet. We talked a little bit before about making sure your videos get in front of the right audience. That is key. And if you haven't been on the platform long enough, YouTube just might not know who your audience is yet. So time on the platform is something you need to be mindful of when you're talking about time.
Dee, how many times have you had someone come to you in one of your like chats, live streams, anywhere you've been working with creators and go, Dee, I don't understand. I think I'm doing all the right things, but I'm not getting the kind of subscribers I'm not driving nearly enough subscribers. I'm not getting the views. And then you go over to their channel and what do you see?
8 videos. Right. Actually, on my Sunday live stream, the exact same thing happened. So, in the questionnaire where people ask their question, somebody was saying, like, I'm so frustrated. I'm doing all of the work. I'm uploading the videos. I'm doing everything you told me to do, and I'm not having any success. Can you look at my channel? I looked at their channel, and I'm not kidding. You can go watch the replay in the live stream. They had started YouTube the day before, and they had 4 videos up, and they were all just complete random stuff. And they've been on YouTube for less than 24 hours.
Well, instant success. It's been a whole 24 hours.
A whole 24 hours. And they were frustrated. Yeah. So you have to have expectations. So you got to have realistic expectations of what's going on.
Well, that's one of the things I think that people forget about, not just in terms of time of building a catalog out. People forget that, listen, you can have your topic, your thumbnail, your title, your intro out of the way. You're great. You're not asking for got a great hook. The pacing's great. The alignment is perfect. The consistency, you've put up 5 videos so far, and all 5 of them were every week. You got it perfectly timed out. Everything was great. But listen, if you're a new entity, YouTube isn't going to take your video and put it in front of 17 million people. They're going to put it in front of, because you're new, you're unproven, it doesn't know enough about you yet. It's going to put it in front of a smaller audience, and you'll always get put in front of someone. That's what impressions are. So it's never more important than when you're small to make sure that all the things we've got on this list over here that you're nailing, because YouTube is judging you so much harder than they are other content. They're really trying to figure you out, right? There's no soft pass here. They're going, I don't know much about this channel. We know about the viewers. That this thing says this video is about, the tech or whatever. Let's try putting it in front of a few tech, viewers and see how they react. And if you don't win that click, or if they do click and they don't keep watching, that's going to really slow your roll, because you're only going to get put out slightly, just a few times. You'll see the impressions, might be a couple hundred impressions. You need to do everything you can to make, speaking of impressions, to make the best impression with those viewers right when you start publishing. You should be thinking about these things over here more than anybody, because you're not going to get the leniency that a larger channel might get, where the people are already invested into the creator and they've watched all their videos and they love hearing what they have to talk about. If people don't know you as much, you have to win them over with the content. You have to really kick it out of, hit it out of the park. So when you're thinking about that, sometimes you do everything right, get those things right. And I've seen this happen a ton, where I'll make a video, I'll pop it up. This happened a lot early on in my channel. I'll put that video up. It'll sit for 6-7 months and just kind of bubble. And then all of a sudden it takes off, because it took YouTube more time to gather the data about it. It took time for it to put it in front of enough people and go, okay, now we really understand this video. It took time for YouTube to say, all right, we can honestly say that we understand this video is relevant, and we have enough data in front of enough people to get a real performance metric, not performance. Don't say, oh, I've got really good AVD. You've got really good AVD on 100 views. If you've got really good AVD on 10 million views, YouTube knows a hell of a lot more about that video and is going to be more likely to recommend it because it's been put in front of a much larger sample set, and it knows the consistency of that video to perform in front of a much larger audience than it does your tiny video that's only been put in front of a few hundred. So this is that process. Time, grow things, be consistent, make sure your stuff is in alignment, and allow the time for those videos to perform and send the data that YouTube's really looking for back to YouTube so it can make some more intelligent decisions about the next viewer to serve it in front of to potentially get that extra view.
Man, that is so important. You know, one thing that you can do to see if YouTube even has enough data on your channel in general is you can go into YouTube Studio, you can go into audience, and you can see if you have the metric to see when your audience is online. Daniel showed a graph earlier on. Daniel, can you pull that back up when you did the little troll thing at the very beginning? Can you pull that image back up to show when your audience is online?
Which one was that? Oh, that, yeah. Hold on one second.
time.
Yeah, I think I can.
Yeah.
Sure. Hold on. Let me just escape here, and I can absolutely show you.
So what happens for a lot of channels is if you're just trying to, you're just getting started, you're building momentum. A lot of newer channels, they don't have this data yet. And you don't have this data yet because YouTube does not know who your audience is yet. So they don't know when their audience is online. So if they don't know who your audience is, if they don't know when they're online, how do you expect them to know the right audience for your videos? So this is one of those things where you're going to have to just pace yourself, understand this is going to take a while. YouTube has to collect data on your channel, on your videos, everything as a whole, everything individually for the videos. It takes time for YouTube to collect this data. So if you don't have this purple graph here that Daniel's showing when your audience is online, then YouTube doesn't know anything about your channel yet. So be patient. Be patient, keep uploading, stay focused, stay true to your value proposition, and eventually this data will show. Eventually YouTube will know the right audience to put your videos in front of. It just takes time.
Yeah. And time works across the board, really, Dee, right? We're talking about time in all metrics in terms of your audience getting to know you better, starting to have watched more of your content, know the kind of consistency to expect. There's been enough positive traffic data that YouTube knows it can recommend this channel to other similar viewers because it knows a lot about this channel and the content, and it says this is a really good, we know these viewers love this content. We've made the connection. And once you had a channel for a while and you're building out that catalog, your library, YouTube knows it can dig deeper into the well because there may be 100, 200, 300 videos on your channel that it knows all of those things about. Not just one. It knows it. All of those videos have been up long enough that it can really start deciding what it should recommend to viewers next, because it's not just the video you dropped today. It's the video you dropped a year ago. It's the video you're going to drop tomorrow. It's the one you dropped 6 months ago. And YouTube is trying to figure out the viewer and go, we know we kind of understand the relevance of this channel, but it has to do with performance too. Is this a good, relevant performing video from Dee Niman that Daniel seems to like things like learning about your mobile? Who's got good, high performing, relevant content about, using your mobile device to make content? Oh, Dee Niman. Let's try recommending Dee Niman to Daniel and see what he does, see how he reacts.
Daniel's clicking and Daniel's watching.
Oh, I am, dude. I'm watching all day long. I'm all about it, man.
I just want to say too, if you have a utility style channel, by that I mean you're teaching people how to do things, you're making tutorials. That means the majority of your traffic is probably going to come from search, especially early on if you're not able to tap into browse traffic. So if you are getting a lot of search traffic and you have a utility type channel, like I have a utility type channel, Daniel has a utility type channel, it can take a very long time, even for established channels, to show up in search. Like it can take my videos 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 months. Like I can upload a video and it doesn't do that well out of the gate, but then 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, whoosh, it's off and running, and it's 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 views, because sometimes it can take a while for those videos to get ranked. So if you do have a utility type channel, you're making search-based traffic, it's going to take even longer than you think it is. Than you plan on. However long you think it's going to take, it's going to take much, much longer to get the views coming in.
That's the story of my life. Everything I think isn't going to take that long. It takes much longer, including things like getting up out of a chair. That takes me much longer than it used to. I'm like, oh man, what did I do? I sat down. Now I got to get up.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, Dee, I think that's a really solid top 10 list. Review those things, guys. Everyone out there watching now live in the chat and in the replay, I want you to really be your own harshest critic. Really look at what you're doing and have perspective and say, okay, am I really doing all of those things well? Am I really trying to make sure that my topics are on point? Am I really trying to make sure that I've got like great titles? Am I really trying to make sure that, that I've got, I'm not wasting time with intros. I'm not asking them to do a bunch of stuff. I've got a great hook that really lets them know what they're there to see right off the bat. The pacing's good. All my content is in alignment with the value proposition of my channel. I'm uploading consistently that makes sure that people know that I'm always publishing new content and that I've given it enough time, my channel and myself as a creator enough time to become better at this, and the audience enough time to understand what I'm doing, and YouTube enough time to know what I'm doing. Really analyze that and put yourself under a microscope. And if you think that some of these things you can do better, take those 10 things and say, all right, I'm going to focus on, don't try to eat the whole elephant in one sitting. If you think you can do better thumbnails and go, I think I'm coming up short on the thumbnails, spend some time there, all right? And see if you can improve your thumbnails, do some testing, right? If you think that you're wasting too much time in the intro of your video, like you're talking about the ask and your hook isn't great and you've got an intro in there that's going on for 20 seconds, think about, all right, this is what I'm going to try to do in my next videos. I'm going to try to chop that down, and I'm going to watch my retention reports and watch the average view duration and the average view percentage of my video and see if I can improve it over the next few videos, the next 10, 20, 30 videos, as opposed to the last 10, 20, 30 videos, see if I can do a little bit better. And if you start doing these things consistently, I promise, as intense as these things seem, these are the things that are going to get YouTube to understand your content better, the type of audience that your content should be served to, and you will start seeing more views. These are the things that will get people watching, okay?
Absolutely. This is a solid blueprint. A little too early for me. Not enough coffee.
Wait. Sorry. That was
there you go.
Words are hard.
So listen, that was a solid list, man. That was a really solid list.
As always, we want to thank you guys for showing up in the chat and anybody watching in the replay. We absolutely want to thank our sponsor here, TubeSpanner, for having us on the channel. If you have not gone to tubespanner.com and install and signed up for your own free account, please do so. Sign up for your free account today. You can start using the tools. We're going to have an official launch very soon. So you're going to really, as we're just getting through the final alpha testing of some of the tools, you're going to see something that I think is going to help you do all of the things that we just talked about even more successfully than you have in the past, because they're really building a tool here that makes sense to the creators out there. So we're very excited about being here on the TubeSpanner channel, and we're very excited about the tool they're going to launch. So think about that. Dee, as always, you have anything to add here?
No, just keep going. Yeah. Keep going. Keep uploading. Stay true to your value proposition. Understand it's going to take a while.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you to TubeSpanner, and we will see you. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.